Great. Well, welcome everyone to our Ladies That UX event. A little bit about Ladies That UX for those who are new. We are a group of enthusiastic ladies who inspire, empower, and support each other in a safe and casual environment. We encourage women who work in or are interested in the field of user experience or product to join us to form a family of Ladies That UX Seattle. Of course, we are not exclusive to women. All are welcome to join, but we do highlight and uplift the experiences of women. We do ask that everyone adhere to our code of conduct. And without further ado, I want to introduce the wonderful Leigh Allen-Arredondo. Leigh Allen-Arredondo is a UX leadership coach, teacher, facilitator, speaker, and podcast host. She has spent over 20 years leading high-performing teams and driving product design and research at companies large, medium, and small, including Amazon, Getty Images, Brooks Bunning, startups, and agencies. She is now devoted to creating strategic and value-driven UX leadership through coaching and leadership development programs. She is also the founder and host of the UX Cake podcast, amplifying voices and ideas that strengthen the UX community around the globe. So without further ado, I will pass it on to you, Leigh.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sinead. I am really happy to be here for another workshop with Ladies That UX Seattle. So a little bit about what this workshop is. Tonight, you're going to get a chance to go through a process that is designed to help you get strategic about your work-related objectives for the next year. And the objective here is to really get clarity on where to focus your energy. There are so many things that we could be doing, and we want to focus on what's going to have the most impact in the big picture for us and what aligns to what is most important. So the work that you do here tonight in an hour and a half is going to set you up to create a strategic plan for your work or career goals over the next year. Just a little about me. I have, well, actually, Sinead did a really good job with the introduction, so I don't really feel like I have to go over a lot of that, but I have been a leader in technology, specifically user experience, strategy, design, research for over 25 years, and I have led UX teams for over 20 years, and now I coach individuals and teams to create really impactful outcomes in their careers and in their lives. Besides the one-on-one coaching, I also have group programs in leadership and career development for UX pros at all levels. When I say UX, that's a large umbrella: design, research, strategy, writing, etc. I believe that you can be a leader in any role, and so that's why it's important for me to have to work with folks at all levels. I think that leadership development is something that you can always be working on, and it never ends. So you can find out more about my programs and the other workshops that I've got coming up this year at strategicuxleader.com. I have a new program for UX team leads and managers starting in February, and one for individual contributors beginning in March. So check that out if you are interested. And as Sinead mentioned, I also host the UX Cake podcast, which is all about the layers we need to be developed to be more effective in our work. And I would love for you to listen wherever you listen to podcasts or watch on YouTube. So with that, I am going to go ahead and jump in. So just a little bit of an intro before we jump into these exercises, because tonight in this workshop, you are going to be getting a chance to really reflect and to think and to write things down. And it's something that we often don't give ourselves enough time to do. And one of the things that I have learned, it's one of my primary principles, is that to get clear on what we want in order to make intentional decisions and to be clear in what we decisions we want to make, we have to regularly spend this time in reflection. And we get so busy in our day-to-day lives with so many responsibilities. We have competing priorities, and often it seems like all we have time for is to look at what is immediately in front of us. And then one day we we look up and we're like, how did I get here? Where am I headed? So you have taken the first step, which is setting aside the time that you will have to dive a little bit deeper tonight to get more clarity about where you are headed and what is most important to do now. So you are going to need paper and a pen or pencil. So go ahead and get those handy.
And while everyone's finding those items, I just want to check with you, Leigh. Are you sharing your screen?
Oh my goodness. We went through all the steps. No, I'm not.
Oh, it's fine.
Thank you. So yeah, you didn't really miss too much. Oh, maybe you missed seeing the logo for UX Cake. That's about it. All right. So let's talk about what it means to be strategic, because this is a really big part of what we're doing here tonight. And strategy isn't just something that you apply to your, your business strategy or your UX strategy. Being a strategic thinker is something we can apply to every part of our life, including how you're going to get the most important things done this year that you really want to get done. There's a well-known saying by Bill Gates that most people overestimate what they can achieve in 1 year, and they greatly underestimate what can get done in 10 years. And I know what it's like to get caught up in that day to day and forget to look out at the horizon. It's very common, and it's something that I, have struggled with a lot myself. So that is actually why I put this together. I put it together for myself as well as for you. So being strategic is about where I am going to be putting my time and energy every day, every month, this year. And that's really crucial to achieving my vision for the future. It means that we're considering the big picture when we make decisions about what we're going to be doing in the near term. That's what being strategic is. We're not trying to boil the ocean. We're focusing on what's most important and what's going to have the biggest impact based on where we want to be headed. So how are we going to do this? Let's go ahead and jump in. So how this is structured today, we're going to start with looking expansively at the big picture, and then we'll zoom in and look at the near future. We'll zoom out again and then in again, and then we will put it all together. And you'll end up with something like an outline, and you can leave it at that, or you can take it further and turn it into a personal development plan or a vision statement or a Kanban board, whatever it is that's going to help you act and stay focused throughout the year. All right, so On your paper, let's start with why. Go ahead and write down what is important to you about your work. Um, what is your why? Why are you doing what you do? And sorry, my dog is in here and maybe wanting to go in and out a little bit because my husband is traveling. So pardon me. Oh, come on. No, okay. All right. So this is this may not be your this isn't maybe so much about your current job. This is about the work that you want to do, the work that you are doing. I see that there are some folks here that are students, so it is about the career that you've chosen. Um, uh, so what gives your work meaning? And what kind of change do you want to make with your work? And for whom? Is it for what kind of people? What kind of companies? Um, for example, I want the work that I do to empower people to achieve what they really want or need. And that was true for me as a design and research practitioner and as a leader of teams and in my coaching and development work as well. Also consider what kind of outcomes do you want for yourself? I'll give you a couple of minutes here. All right. So go ahead and wrap that up. I would love to see in the chat some of the things that you all came up with, if you're willing to share. I also want you to know that this can be a really challenging thing to answer on the spot. I recognize that. Um, and you may not have a clear answer about it right now, and that's okay. The point here is to get yourself thinking about this and sort of get yourself into this headspace. Because the next step that we're going to is about your vision. So understanding what your why is so important when you are thinking about what you are envisioning in your future. Make the world make more sense. I think that's great. That's a wonderful why. Working on a wide range of problems. Kathy says, with creative and technical solutions, working on products that positively affect other people's lives. Yeah. Um, effectively influence people. Yeah. Helping create technology that is more accessible and inclusive. And that's something that can be really challenging in UX work. So knowing what your why is really important when you face those challenges, and sometimes we start doubting, or we want to give up. And so understanding what your hard why is, like what is like your absolute meaning, really can help us work through those situations. Erin says to be a better human and help other people be better humans. I think that's beautiful. And Regina says helping reduce customer frustration with interactions and technology. I think those are all really wonderful. Thank you for sharing. All right, so the next step is vision. And this, we're going to look out into the horizon. Like I mentioned, being strategic requires both seeing the big picture to inform what we're doing day to day and in the near future. So right at the top of your page, we're going to look 5 years out. And this is scary for some people, and you don't have to, it doesn't have to be perfect. But when I am, and put your age in 5 years, when I am 5 years from now, that age, I will be, what are you going to be? Who are you going to be? Who do you want to be in 5 years? And these are some prompts. I will be feeling a certain way. I'll be doing these things. I'll be living someplace. Include both career and non-career things here. Your career is just part of your overall life. And many of our personal life ambitions have an effect on our work lives as well. Especially, our passions, artistic passions, and family, things that take our time. Also, try to be aware of any negative or judgy voices that might be coming in here, telling you, well, that's not realistic, or you can't have that and that. That negative voice doesn't have a place here. This is thinking big. I'm going to give you some time for this, because maybe I will set the music. Do you hear that music, Shanae? No, no music.
Yes. So when you hit the share screen button, there is a checkbox on the bottom of that pop-up that says share sound, and that connects you to your,
Thanks.
yeah. There we go.
How are folks doing time-wise? All right. Let's go ahead and wrap that up. All right. So all right here. Oops. Now I have so many screens going. All right, so next step. Take another piece of paper, draw a large circle, and divide it into 8 sections. Okay. Now, what I want you to do is take a look at that list that you wrote. And what jumps out at you as your top aspirations? Oops. Well, I have a bunch of examples here that I came up with to help you see what it might look like. So these are going to be career or work related, and it may not be a career goal, but it's something that would impact your work life, like possibly having a flexible work schedule or traveling for work. It might have to do with your passions, like showing your art in galleries or writing a book. So find sort of like the 8 that are most prominent, or up to 8. If you have less than 8, that's not a problem. And then title each segment of the wheel with an intention or aspiration from your list. All right. Okay. So now we're going to switch gears. If you have that, put that sheet aside, get a new sheet of paper. So we've got our 8 kind of big picture things we want to consider for our work life. Now we're going to switch over to what's right in front of us, what's near term this year. Now you may go ahead and just start writing down your career related goals or objectives for this year. It could also be challenges that you're facing this year, or improvements that you want to make in your work or in your career. And you may fall into one of 2 groups here. You may have too many ideas, too many things that you want to get done this year, more than would fit in a year. And you need to work, you'll be wanting to work on prioritizing and focusing. So write all your ideas down. Or you may not have a clear idea of what you want to do. And that's okay too. Like, that is a perfectly wonderful thing to be working on during this time. So you may need to brainstorm a little bit. If you're not sure what you want to accomplish this year, take a look at the bigger ideas that you put on in your wheel, and think about some steps that might get you closer to one of those goals. Maybe you want to become a manager. So this year you start mentoring others who are earlier in their career. Or if you want to show your art in galleries, maybe you try spending 10 hours a week on your art. Oh, sorry about that. Okay. Someone is asking about the wheel. I went too fast. Okay. I'm gonna, oops, go back. Okay. So in the step before, in fact, in this step, you wrote down a bunch of things, intentions or goals, where you want to be in 5 years. So what are some of those things that are related to your career or work life? Then we go to, after you've written this, you're going to select up to 8 of those intentions that you wrote in your vision, that mean the most to you, up to 8. And you write in there at the top of each section. So in 5 years, I want to be speaking in conferences, or I want to be managing a team. I'd like to be teaching. I want to be showing my art in galleries. I want to have a flexible work schedule. I want to be doing work related to, something that's important to you. Does that make sense? Okay. Do we still need a minute to finish the wheel? Go ahead and throw it in the chat if you need a second. Okay, so now we're switching. This is where we were thinking big, and now we are looking right in front of us. And this is kind of part of that strategic thinking, where it can be really challenging to look at the big picture as well as right in front of us. So we're just gonna get some practice doing that. I'll give you a couple minutes more. All right. We ready for the next step? Before we move on, actually, I would like to check in a little bit. Is any How are you feeling about writing these things down? Are you finding it challenging? Does it feel inspirational? Does it feel like there's too much, or you're just not sure? Any thoughts you want to share with us? I saw Sinead nodding her head that maybe this is challenging.
Yes.
Um,
I think I need to dedicate more time to like solidify exactly what I want. I have a direction, but I haven't spent the time for it to like, um, yeah. Also, I think I'm a little too ambitious, like a few people have listed in the chat as well.
and that is okay. I think difficult to stick to career related. Yeah. And you don't have to. Like, you can use this for however you want to spend your time this year. Maybe the time that you want to spend this year is less about work and more about your passions or yourself. Like, I have in the past definitely had years when I wasn't really focusing as much on my career development as I was personal development or raising my family. Um, so while I am making these instructions focused on, strategize your career success, it is absolutely okay to use this in the way that's actually going to help you the most. So yeah, does that change things for folks, like putting down your personal development goals? Or also, if you are in the camp where you don't have a ton of goals or objectives, take a look at that list that you wrote of what you want to be in 5 years and see if there are, ask yourself, what would be one step that I could take in this direction? And Robin says there is a lot of overlap between career and personal goals and interests. So there's no need to limit yourself. It's about being strategic with where you spend your time this year and your energy, because it has to be things that are going to be impactful for you in the big picture, and also things that you're really motivated to do because they're important to you. That's how we stick with things. Making that connection. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and move on. Oops, I went too far. I think I did. All right. So I wrote a bunch of just samples of something that someone might be wanting to do in their work this year, mostly in their work. So looking at your list, and it might not be this long, it might be twice as long. Give a number between 1 and 3, prioritize them based on, these are things I must do this year. At work, I have to launch this project, or at school, I have to complete a portfolio, or at home, I have to visit my family. Like it could be, the things that you are gonna have to spend your time on this year that you know about. 2, and they could be things that you really want to do as well. So just because it's a number 1 that you have to do it doesn't mean that you don't want to do it. In fact, it could be something like with completing a portfolio so that you can finish school this year. It's something you have to do to complete school, but you also really want to complete school. So something that is something you must do and really want to do. 3s are things that would be nice, but they might be stretch goals. 2, those are things that you feel pretty motivated about. It's not the end of the world if it doesn't get done, or if you don't make as much progress as you would like. Some of these things are things that you're not necessarily going to accomplish. They're just things you're going to improve upon. You'll make some progress on improving communication with another team, collaborating with a team that is, outside of your org. Spending X amount of hours on your passion, on writing or your art, or your health. All right. So next step. And if I am moving too fast, go ahead and throw that in the chat. So the next step is this is where we're going to start matching up what's in front of us with what's in the bigger picture. So we're going to start getting a little more strategic. Take a look at each of those objectives for this year and see which ones line up to your big picture intentions. You may have some things that don't align to your big picture, and that's perfectly normal. Once you start looking at your bigger picture, you might add some more things to your list, or but go ahead and try to connect the dots. Sometimes it's not really obvious. So, for example, setting up design critiques. Maybe that's something that you really want to do because your team needs it. But could that align to some of your big picture goals? How could it? In this person's case, it is they can move that into being seen as being the expert in design systems, because it's going to give them a chance to speak to that. I'll give you a minute and a half here. Okay. Did that seem like enough time? I can only see about 3 people on camera, so thank you. Okay. Alrighty. So next, animals are just coming in and going out. They open my door all the time. Okay. All right. So now we're going to jump back out. So grab your wheel sheet and hang on a second. Okay. We're going to take a stab at coming up with impact. Now, impact is challenging when it's things that are in your own life. It's very subjective, right? So, and that's fine. I mean, it's your life. But I have an idea for how to measure impact here. If you make progress in one of these areas, will it help you make progress in one of the other areas? This is called goal stacking or goal interdependence. So achieving one of these goals or making progress in one of these areas, they might not be goals. Some people don't really like the word goals, which is why I try to use the word intention as well as goal. Achieving some progress towards this intention or goal in one area is going to help you make progress in another area. So I'll show you how it works with these examples here. So let's say you manage to get yourself a flexible work schedule. That is going to help you make progress towards showing your art in galleries because you have more time, right? You'd have more time for creating and promoting your art. Making progress towards being seen as an expert in design systems could make progress at speaking at conferences. This other goal could be make progress towards managing a team because you're well known for something. It could make progress towards teaching because now you may be able to teach in something if you're an expert. It could lead to traveling for work because you're speaking at conferences and or because you are the expert at a company and so they send you places. So this is another thing where you're trying to connect the dots and they're not always really obvious at first. So I'm just going to go ahead and I don't want to take up all of your listening space, but I'm going to go ahead and fill this out with these examples while you work on your own. But please do let me know if you have any questions. And once you have that filled out, then you can start rating the impact of each section. So this section right here impacts 4 other goals or 4 other intentions in this wheel. So it has very high impact. Something that has 1 or 2 might be medium impact. Something that doesn't seem to have an effect on any of the other goals has a low impact. All right. Timing seems okay. All right. Okay, so next step, now we see how things are affecting other areas in our big picture, and we've rated the impact. So we have an idea of impact. Doesn't mean that it's not important. It could actually be very important to us. There could be something that maybe the impact based on the other things that are affected seems low. Showing your art in galleries, for example, maybe that doesn't necessarily have an impact in the other areas of your work life, but it's really important to you, and it's something that means a lot, and you're highly motivated. Maybe this is something you're already working towards, so your motivation would be very high. So now we're going to take a look at your motivation. Rate your motivation, your desire to work towards this thing this year. So, for example, I have writing a book on in my big picture. It is not something I am motivated to actively work on this year. So, my motivation for that is low. All right. I feel like maybe 2 minutes is 1 minute probably enough. Okay. All right, so now let's move to the next step, which is with these 2 scores together, you can get an idea about your big picture goals, the ones that are most strategic for you to put your energy towards. Because if it has high impact and high motivation, or even a medium impact and medium motivation, those are things that you're going to be fairly motivated to work on and will have an impact on other areas of your life. So let's start the things that at least average a medium. So something that is low impact, low motivation, obviously doesn't make the cut. Something that is high motivation, high impact, that's an easy one. So for these examples, we've got medium, medium high, and a low impact but a high motivation together averages medium. So we star that showing the art in the galleries. Anything else, if it's got a low and a medium or a low and a low, it's not quite to that level. Not that you won't do anything towards it this year, it's just not showing itself to be the highest impact. Before we move on, I'm curious if there's any surprises for anybody at this point. Something that you thought you know, maybe would be really important, seems maybe a little less important, or vice versa. Anybody have any thoughts on that? A lot of learning opportunities that are more important. I know that I found there were some things that I thought I really wanted to do them this year, but when I sat down and did this work, they didn't pan out actually. The location you live is a little bit less impactful, maybe less important. And it doesn't mean that it's not going to happen, right? It just means that it's not at the top of your list for this year. Over the last few years, I've gotten much better through practice at saying, not now. It's not no, it's just not now. As you expected, but feels nice to see it organized a little bit. I feel the same way. I am a list person all the way. Okay. All right. We're jumping back to our objectives for 2023. Because our goal here is to get a strategic plan for our objectives for the year. So we started with this kind of big list. And when I look at a list like that, I think I am not sure which ones should be at the top. Like, which one should I work at this week or this month? Especially like I actually kind of plan out my objectives month by month. And it's sort of like a crapshoot. Like, well, this one seems important, so I'll do it now. But putting it into this format can help you kind of figure out the order that you want to be doing things, and the amount of time you're going to give it. So now we're able to create a prioritized list. We have our priorities, we have our impact, and we have our motivation. So I want to go back here and show you, these are the things that we starred. There were 4 things in this particular wheel. For this person, it's expert in design systems, speaking at conferences, managing a team, and showing art in galleries. So now we're going to come back to our objectives list and take a look at those areas that got stars. So anything in one of those segments gets a star on our objectives list for 2023. So anything in this bucket gets a star. Anything that has, multiple buckets, that gets us closer to multiple of our big picture goals, gets a couple of stars. All right. So the next step, once we've got that, is to put these things in order. So I have a star, that means it's impactful, and a priority. That means, kind of helps me get an order. Anything that's a star and a 1 goes at the top. Stars with 2s go under that. Stars with, this one has 2 stars and a 3. So you kind of you might have to use your own judgment to see, does this go above or below a star with a 2? And you'll have to kind of use your subjective intuition to really do that. So what I'd like you to do is take another piece of paper and relist your objectives based on this order. What we're doing is basically creating a strategic plan for ourselves. And it's the same way that you would do it at work if you were someone who is responsible for creating the strategic plan for your team. You have a way of identifying impact, and you have a way of connecting it to the business objectives and the business vision. So then the next step is kind of like plotting it out for the year, or 3 years. So now we're basically creating a kind of a quick and dirty strategic plan for our own year. And at this point, you may even decide to add or remove objectives based on kind of this new perspective of what's going to have the highest impact for you. I know that it worked out that way for me. I realized there were a few things that I didn't necessarily need to do this year, and a few things that I thought maybe, I can just kind of wait on that, and realize that actually it would be more impactful if I did it kind of sooner rather than later. So I'm going to give you a little bit of time on this. So that you can really think through this a little bit more and see if it actually looks right. Check it with your gut. Your intuition is very important part of planning. Okay. So at this point, I would really love to get your feedback on questions that you might have, things that were parts of this that were particularly difficult. Um, I'm especially interested in folks who are transitioning, or you're kind of moving into a different phase of your career. Um, if this was challenging to do, and part of that is because maybe you're not 100%, you don't feel very solid in your 5-year vision. Or I mean, there could be a whole lot of reasons, right? um, Maybe you're less likely to have clear objectives on what would get you to that 5-year, those things in your 5-year. I know that yeah, okay, Lisa, you put it really well. Challenging as I think about a new phase, because it's not necessarily about improving where I'm at now. 5 years out, it's about inventing a new phase. And I hear that, like, that's, you're not alone. And I've been there, quite frankly, I have been there myself. Um, and it does make things a little more challenging. The I What I want to say about that, part of planning, I guess, when you aren't 100% sure which objectives are going to pan out to be most impactful, or you're not 100% sure, what that next phase is. For me, how it ended up was making my objectives all about learning and discovery. Um, and that can be really, really hard. But once I knew that that was my main goal for the year, it made it so much easier when I got to a place where, well, I'm not moving towards this or that or the other. And then it's like, no, this year is about learning and discovery. So I already know that I'm not planning to make progress in this other area. Um, and Megan likes the idea of picturing an ideal life, an ideal you. And honestly, 5 years from now, I do feel like that's really important piece of believing in possibility, which, I mean, as a coach, it's a big part of what I work with people, is believing in possibility. It's a big mindset thing. And let's see, it's challenging, but helping to confirm and clarify how to get where I intended to be. Good. I'm glad that you are finding it helpful to kind of see things as steps. And this has been helpful to identify and categorize my objectives in comparison to one another and get back into that mindset. There has been a whole lot of uncertainty. And so I can see where that would be add that challenge to refocusing on objectives. This actually brings us to the end of the workshop, and I would love for you to, let's see here. I'm going to put this survey form. Oh, darn it. I didn't. Hang on a second. Okay, I had to jump out of that so I could copy this link. So I can put it back in the chat. I would really love it if you would please fill out this survey. You can make it very quick. I would love to get your feedback. And I'd love to know anything that would make this more helpful for you. This is the first time I actually did this workshop. So I think that has added to it being just a little bit more less smooth than some of the workshops that the other workshops that I typically do. So if you have feedback about that, I'm happy to hear it as well. But because you are the guinea pigs, your input is really important. I have a whole lot of resources and articles on my website. You can get there through strategicuxleader.com. There are other podcasts that might be interesting besides UX Cake. Squiggly Careers and Good Life Project are a couple that I found really helpful, especially for folks who are thinking about the next phase or in a transition. There is mentoring in ADP list, and I just wanted to throw that out there. And then, of course, I will continue doing, I'll probably do a couple more free workshops this year. And then I also will be doing some paid workshops and coaching and group programs. So are there any further comments? Thank you all so much for joining, and I really appreciate you giving your time to this, and I really hope that it was valuable for you, and have a great evening. Shanae, if you want to end anything with anything.
I need to unmute. Yes, of course. Thank you, Leigh. This was a wonderful workshop. Definitely, I gained a lot of value as well, kind of solidifying the ambiguity, the space of ambiguity that I'm currently in. So I personally found it helpful as far as setting the intention of how to navigate this year. And from the chat, there's a lot of great insights and words of thanks, many thanks as well in the chat. So I'm glad that the community also found a lot of value. So thank you for your time. Again, I have left contact info to Leigh's website as well as LinkedIn, her strategic UX leader, which is also available on her website. More information there, as well as her UX Cake podcast available on Apple, Spotify. I will also drop those links in our Slack as well. This event is also recorded, so I will also put this on our Ladies That UX English YouTube channel. So keep an eye out for that when that is announced. But thank you so much, Leigh, for your time. And I will end the recording here.